Hey Pixel 3Ds, Gon here. Let me take you back to a simpler time. 2013, the age of Minecraft ripoffs. Due to the explosive success of Minecraft, it naturally launched a ton of copycat games trying to ride off of the success of Minecraft. There are so many clones, and they range widely from things you might have played as a kid, like Castle Miner Z on the Xbox, to straight shovelware garbage, Bubsy 3D levels of bad. But even among all of these, there was a standout, the mobile game Pixel Gun 3D. It just received its PC port this year, so I figured I would try and play it again. But when I came back to the game, I was met with a very different experience than I had playing as a child. So let's get into why not only the PC port, but the game as a whole has just become a disappointing mess. You see, Pixel Gun was capitalizing on the fact that kids loved the block game, but the block game costs money, and most people's parents didn't want to spend money on some dumb mobile game called Minecraft. What is the one thing gamer kids love even more than block game? Gun game, because this was also the era of peak Call of Duty. Back then there were no quirky indie games to enjoy, so we all just had this basic taste. This allowed for Pixel Gun to become popular with the younger generations of the 2010s. Why am I talking about Pixel? Well, whenever you look at the comments on the community posts on Steam, it's just people complaining at the devs to fix the game, or you know, just say it fell off. We have to look back at the game as a whole to understand the full scope of this massive fumble. Pixel Gun can be divided into three sections of gameplay: the campaign, the PvP, and the alternative game modes. But originally, the campaign was the only content in the game. I mean, this was early days. It was pretty unknown when this was the case. Campaign consists of 4 worlds with a set of missions where you have to kill a certain amount of PvE enemies to spawn a boss that you then kill to complete the mission, and sometimes even unlock a new weapon, with a star system for if you completed certain bonus objectives, as well as being able to find extra loot around the map like coins or even these gems. The campaign missions themselves have remained relatively unchanged all these years. Just some blocky zombies on certain maps like Silent Hill or Slenderman's Forest. And if this map scared you as a kid, consider yourself a real one, because it scared me too. The campaign itself has remained relatively the same since release, with only a few weapon swaps and boss changes here and there. Other than that, pretty much the same. However, this has definitely become the most ignored game mode of all over time. I mean, the story's still not done, and it's been 11 years. They averaged nearly one world every 3 years. Come on, guys. There's a good reason for this deprived content, however. But we'll get there in a sec. For now, though, the story mode is still pretty enjoyable, even if it's just nostalgia bait. But it was always inevitable that this campaign mode would be left behind in the dust, as we might have loved it back in the day. PvE was never the main appeal of Pixel Gun. This was. The PvP is and always has been the primary appeal of Pixel Gun. The game only ever got popular after the devs added PvP a little while after the initial campaign missions were made, and while the rate of which they would add campaign missions would slow down over the years, the devs were always feeding new content to the PvP aspect of the game. The PvP combat is really what shot Pixel Gun into the limelight. It's what it's really known for. It offered all the average game modes you'd expect from a first-person shooter like Deathmatch, Team Battle, as well as Capture the Flag, and there were even specialized maps for certain weapons like Knife Party for melee only, which is pretty fun as long as no one has a weapon that is straight up better than yours. But that's a can of worms we'll open later in the video. There was even a game mode called Deadly Games, which was basically just capitalizing on the Hunger Games popularity of the time, and it was also my favorite game mode and the best of them all. I'll fight you, I will fight. Now, what would a PvP game mode be without a good arsenal? As in its early years, Pixel Gun had a pretty cool arsenal. There's 6 weapon slots: primary, secondary, melee, special, sniper, and heavy, meaning there's a ton of variety to your overall loadout at any given time in any given game mode. You had such a wide choice of weapons to use from, it felt incredibly freeing. Now, how would you unlock these weapons, you may ask? Well, for a huge majority of weapons back then, you would unlock the ability to buy new weapons as you leveled up by playing the game. Then you simply paid with the in-game currencies like coins or gems, which were monetized because, you know, mobile game, they gotta make their dollar somehow. Back then, this was, and let's face it, on the App Store still is, a common practice. But in the early days, it wasn't too bad, and whilst it was still kind of pay to win, the difference in strength of earlier weapons wasn't that awful, and you would still get away with using just a decent cheap weapon without spending mom's credit card, just as long as you made sure to upgrade the efficiency of the weapon whenever possible. A feature which, looking back, is super lame. It just siphons your coins away, which you could use to buy new weapons to make your existing ones, you know, as good as they were when you got them. And so you could just simply grind for currencies by playing, making upgrading not so bad. I remember I would always come home and just play this game for hours at a time, grinding for coins. And a little later on, they added this base building feature where, depending what buildings you had and what level you had them upgraded, you could just get buffs as well as free gems and coins over time. So there were other ways other than grinding stuff like survival missions. And speaking of which, the alternative game modes are things that aren't part of the campaign but don't really follow the PvP formula. Additionally, this category had pretty slim pickings of game modes like co-op survival and the arena mode, but as time went on, this category really started to grow, but not in the ways you'd think. As time would go on, they would add things like a raid mode, which I unironically enjoyed playing for the first time for this video, a sandbox mode, which was also added. It's fine, you know, it does its job. But here's where we get to the messy part, the trend hopping game modes. Pixel Gun 3D was never that original of an idea from conception. Well, as time went on, Minecraft, it stopped being cool. So naturally, the game about Minecraft with guns also became a lot less cool. So what do you think the devs did when they saw they were slowly declining in player base? They did the very thing the game was founded on. Look at what was popular. In the current day, Pixel Gun has a Battle Royale mode, a Squid Games game mode, an Among Us game mode, and even a Spleef game mode. Now why am I complaining? That's just free content, right? Yeah, but it demonstrates that the company that makes Pixel Gun began to lose faith in their original concept, and as such had tried to branch out to get some clout from the popularity of whatever was big at the current time. And it's not like this was anything new to Pixel Gun. A lot of the original skins you could get in the game were from these other IPs, but by making so many of these rip-off game modes, it's a huge step up. This isn't to say these were the only things ever being made, however. Things like a Hardcore game mode was made as well. Hell, there was even an Evolve game mode, which is kind of crazy to think about, especially since Evolve is just kind of like unlike campaign, they still supported PvP with maps and such, but it's more so that these rip-off game modes just kind of made the game look sort of messy. It feels weird, like it's not supposed to be there. I can't describe it well. I might just be biased, but I feel like with these game modes, the simplicity and charm that Pixel Gun had sort of started to fade away, and the game became a bit more corporatized, likely only adding things because they thought it would increase sales. Oh, and speaking of sales, I think it's time to touch on Pixel Gun's main issue. The monetization of Pixel Gun has become wildly out of control. Just like how they took the game modes from everything popular at the time at the expense of its core, so too did they take every single form of bad monetization that was ever made. Currently, there are loot boxes that not only give you a small chance of getting what you want, but also, when you get the item, only get parts for said item, meaning you have to get it multiple times to unlock the thing you earn, you know, by rolling onto it. There's multiple event battle passes that take a long ass time to level up, as well as a regular battle pass, and they still kept the tried and true paid currencies of gems and coins. There's bundles the game is always reminding you exist and are constantly giving small discounts to try and get you to buy. Even though they had already monetized the weapons and had an existing skin system, that wasn't enough for Cubic Games. No, they decided to monetize cosmetics again, but this time they did it by introducing these new kinds of skins. They were more 3D and blocky and often referenced other media, and you could get them from battle passes and chests as per usual. But there was one hitch. These things are pretty damn ugly. They're pretty much made irrelevant from the singular custom skin item that's in the store, which everyone uses. It's way more cheap as well as more versatile, because instead of looking like whatever the game wants you to for real money, you can just make whatever you want for free. Or, you know, just copy what those expensive skins look like onto the custom one. The only small difference being it actually looks better because it's not bulbous and gross. Plus, the Steam port of the game has DLCs that are 21 British sterling pounds for a set, which is just insane. Like, for some weird reason, if you wanted to buy the bonus sets of DLC and nothing else, that alone would cost you nearly $100. But of course, why would you ever possibly spend this much money on weapons? The power creep. The power creep has always been a problem for Pixel Gun, with things like the prototype being insanely overpowered when it was released. But now it's absolutely horrific. If someone has spent money on the game, the difference is immediately obvious. The definition of hydrogen bomb versus coughing babies. It just really is not fun to pump constant shots into someone just for him to turn around unfazed and shoot you once with a super mega event gun and it kills you instantly, as well as goes to your house, kills your dog, or throws bricks through your windows. All of this finally brings us to the PC port. The very reason I made this video is because I believed that since Pixel Gun had made the jump from mobile to PC, this would increase the bar as you went from a free-to-play mobile game to an actual regular free-to-play game. When you compare Pixel Gun 3D to most, if not all, free-to-play games, it's just pretty much the worst one out there for the consumer. You have to pay for cosmetics, weapons that offer huge, undeniable advantages. And whilst that's always been the case for Pixel Gun, it's snowballed into a completely other beast. And here's the weirdest part. I don't think these transactions even give the devs that much money at all. I think this because, think about it, people who whale for games usually whale for, well, for better games. People with money to whale on a game usually spend it on something much more polished than something like Pixel Gun 3D, which leads me to something that confuses me. Who is this game made for anymore? Originally it's for kids like us who liked Minecraft and gun games, which for the first few years of its life worked really well for Pixel Gun. But the problem is that once the initial audience left, Pixel Gun was faced with a choice: age up with its original player base, and based on its original concept, this was not gonna happen.
Wow, it actually does a lot of damage.
Leaving only one real choice to be to appeal to the newer and younger audiences. But as time passed, this wouldn't work as general interest in Minecraft also went down, leading them to constantly jumping the ship, which I'd imagine has little to no effect at all. Let's face it, who's gonna play Pixel Gun Among Us over the actual Among Us? And you can repeat this for every single game mode on offer. I guess the shrinking player count could also be an additional factor for this extra monetization, because they needed to make money to keep it going as they attempted to cater to such a tiny part of their fan base, those with money that are actually willing to spend it on Pixel Gun 3D. But this just alienates the kids and potential new members even more. Now, believe it or not, the PC port has even more problems than the mobile game. Firstly, the appearance of bot lobbies is way more apparent. I'm not sure if bots are used much in the mobile version of the game. I didn't play on mobile much for the sake of this video. I mostly focused on the PC port, but this is another huge drain on the fun, because there is nothing fun about playing a PvP game and just killing bots over and over again. If I wanted to do that, I'd just play a campaign or like a story game that's actually like engaging. I get why bots are needed in games like these, especially if Pixel Gun's player counts averaging about 5,000 players on Steam at a time, but like, me no like it, me no. You can also look at clans and they vary from people wanting to grind together to this one. Naturally, I applied to it. I gotta get in there. Now, despite these issues, I think there's still a massive main issue that dwarfs all of these in comparison for the PC port. So we already know how busted all the weapons are, right? Basically, either one-shots or super fast time to kill weapons. Well, the smallest, teeniest bit of balancing for them all was, despite the time to kill, you're on a phone screen. How are you gonna consistently kill people without using splash damage? So one-shots, as a result, became less likely because most of the time, you're not gonna hit anyone. To make up for this, however, the mobile version has really strong aim assist, but even this doesn't resolve the issue too much because the poor aiming, I'm pretty sure it's by design. It's part of the reason Pixel Gun could get away with these blocky, large character models with massive hitboxes, because no one can aim. I mean, look at these heads in Pixel Gun. Do you think this would be hard to hit if it wasn't on the phone screen? Anyway, how's the PC version? Oh yeah, everyone can aim now. That's too easy! When you take these busted weapons and generous hitboxes and put them onto a mouse and keyboard, it just doesn't feel good for either side. From the player's perspective, it's way too easy to hit people because hitboxes are just the size of a skyscraper, making things like a sniper headshot comically easy. It doesn't even feel skillful to just one or two tap these guys. Weirdly enough, it's even less fun knowing how easy it is for the enemy team to one tap you like this. It just doesn't work. I heard a lot of people say this PC port would have been great if it was made 10 years ago, which I think is pretty accurate because let's face it, Pixel Gun's appeal is long gone by now. Kids today aren't going to play Pixel Gun 3D, they're just going to play Fortnite or PUBG Mobile or something. Now, with all that being said, the game can still be enjoyed at the most basic level of running around and collecting cool killstreak names. But I think the main problem is the original fanbase just grew up and now they're calling out the game on its flaws now that it's tried to come back with this nostalgia bait port. You can see this in the Steam reviews or the community posts the game make. Most of the comments are just remove pay to win or game dead lol. I mean, it's not like a lot of these problems are new. The game has been pay to win for a long time, but I think it's just more become glaringly obvious. People can't even play for the nostalgia anymore because the game is just that different. That being said, I'm pretty sure the game will be able to operate still for a decent while. It's not like this is the end of Pixel Gun, it's just more apparent. The golden age was a long time ago. It's as the wise scholar Sun Tzu said, was that game you played when you were 12 good? Or was it good because you were 12? Let that one stew in your melon for a bit.